Hey, Prime members, you can listen to Watch What Crappens ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the app today.
No one wants to end up in the hospital with a sex-related injury, but it happens to a lot of people. On Sex Sent Me to the ER, the official podcast from TLC, you'll hear crazy sex stories that have happened to real people. Like the woman who had to treat an orgasm that lasted for hours, or the threesome that had to deal with fractured organs, and a ton of hurt feelings. For more of the drama, listen to Sex Sent Me to the ER, wherever you get your podcasts.
Life is short, and it's full of a lot of interesting questions. What does happiness really mean? How do I get the most out of my time here on Earth? And what really is the best cereal? These are the questions I seek to resolve on my weekly podcast, Life is Short with Justin Long. Follow Life is Short wherever you get your podcasts. You can also listen ad-free on the Amazon Music or Wondery app.
Watch what crappens. Watch what crappens. Who cares what happens when there's so much that crappens? Crappens. 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 Watch what crappens. Watch what crappens. Who cares what happens when there's so much that crappens? Watch what crappens. Watch what crappens. Who cares what happens when there's so much that crappens?
Hello and welcome to Watch What Crappens, a podcast about all that crap on Bravo that we just love to watch. I'm Ben Mandelker. Joining me, the one, the only, Mr. Ronnie Karam. Hi, Ronnie. How are you?
Hello, Ben. I'm great, thank you. How are you doing today, baby?
Just doing great. You know, still rebounding from our crazy crappies weekend. We had such a fun show on Friday, despite crazy LA weather. You know, everyone still had a wonderful show. So many wonderful categories, big winners. Real Housewives of Miami winning for best Bravo show of the year. So exciting. If you missed the show, it's on Moment House. It's on all week, I think, through Friday. So you can watch it. We had all sorts of huge, super fun guests. We had Rose Abdu from Hacks. I mean, you know what's funny? Rose was at our show, and then like 2 days later, she's at like the Screen Actors Guild Awards because she's a nominee for Best Ensemble for Hacks. And I was like, that's crazy, you know? It's like I'm like, that juxtaposition of being at these two shows, it doesn't elevate our show in any way. It just is like I can't imagine what it's like to go from like our show to like like an actual real award show in the same weekend. But Rose was there, Kate Flannery from The Office, Diallo Riddle from Southside, a lot of our podcast people, Walter and Katie, obviously we're doing a band, Ryan Bailey, Courtney Frayne, Kiki Monique, lots of people. Ariana from Vanderpump Rules, Christina Ariel. There's way more. But go check out the show if you didn't see it. And you can see everyone up on stage presenting. Really, really such a super fun, wonderful time. If you want to see the show, by the way, go to watchcrappens.com. There'll be links there to seeing the show on Moment House. So
and also to get links for our next show. So here's what's coming up in March. We start March 9th. We're going to be in Charlotte. Then we go to Atlanta, Denver, Salt Lake City, Seattle, and San Francisco. That's all this March. So go grab tickets and also streaming tickets for the crappies over at watchwhatcrappens.com. Also, Patreon is where you get our bonus episodes and video recaps for the week. So those are always great too. Thanks to everyone who supports us on Patreon and in general. We know we throw a lot of information at you at the beginning of this show, but goddamn, nights like this weekend, both in Scottsdale and in Los Angeles, really make it worth it, to us at least. So thanks everybody for being here. Today is Summer Housing, episode 703.
Yeah. Wow. So this one, you know, Summer House is kind of funny because there's some episodes where so much happens, and then there's some where you're just really watching people mill about a house. And this was a mill about a house episode. Let's be honest. This was an episode where they have to make their episode order, because this should have been the first 20. This whole episode should have been the first 20 minutes of a regular episode. And the fact that we like sat there watching these people just sort of amble about, talk, sit there. We literally watched a sequence of Chris sitting in one chair and then moving to another chair, which was not to be confused with a different sequence where Maya and Oliver sat in small chairs and laughed about how small the chairs were. I mean, that was today's episode.
This is one of those seasons. This is like a very Vanderpump Rules trying to get their shit back together season. And it's funny because that show was kind of a spinoff of Vanderpump Rules anyway. At least that's how it started. Mm-hmm. And, I think they're going through the same thing where they're trying to say, okay, well, we need at least half of a new cast this time. We need a ton of new people. And it's just not working. You can't mix older people in with young people who just talk about fucking the whole time. Like it. And also, they can't be too young. I mean, Summer House was about 30 to 35-year-olds, right?
I think
still
so. Yeah,
thinking that they're young and not still trying to be like rich, white, like, bros in the Hamptons. Like, the Hamptons, the reputation for the Hamptons is just like sweater around the neck, like, bro, I have a Ferrari. Remember the first episodes were all like, what's his buns talking about flying around in his friend's private helicopter or his private jet or whatever. I mean, that's just so, yes, they're just such trash, and now the cast is like nice and likable. And it makes it different. And you can't have such young people in with such old people. It's just not working, okay? I say get rid of the older people. They've served their time. They've been great. I've loved them for these years. I'm not saying turn them into sausage. I'm just saying get rid of them for now and just give us the young people. Because they're being held back, this new cast.
I actually don't mind the old people. And I actually don't feel like this is like a trying to right the ship season. Because I feel like Summer House has actually been pretty good. I think that I don't feel like the ship has gone too far off course. And the first 2 episodes of the season I thought were great. But this episode to me was kind of like, okay, like maybe Bravo has ordered too many episodes because they need to fill an entire hour of people doing nothing. And this episode should have spanned over 2 weekends or something like that. But it is funny when you mentioned like Summer House's origins, when it was that crossover episode and it was like the Vanderpump Rules kids all headed to the Hamptons. And I remember that crossover on Vanderpump Rules, and it felt so much like the cast of Summer House. They felt in that episode so wealthy and so like it felt like they all went to private school. And like it was like when I think Sheena was talking about like, I don't eat shellfish, and they were all looking at her like you
absolute trash,
like, street urchin. And I was like, oh my god, look at all these wealthy people, like just like it's so mortifying they would act like this in front of wealthy people. And then you find out that they are just like the same people, it's like, oh, they're no different.
Right. Their thing is pretending that they're really elegant and snobby, right? But I think the only person that actually had that kind of money, even though it was from startups, God knows where it's all coming from, with Kyle, like his startups and stuff, was Kyle, because he'd be driving around in these like crazy expensive sports cars, right, which he still does every time. But, it's now still half of that cast, but then half of the older people have become like Carl and Lindsay, who are all about influencing and, which is the thing I hate the most about a reality star. And then the other half is just young and really doesn't care about the Hamptons. They're cast from all over the place and are just coming to be on a TV show. So I don't know. It's just maybe like a finding its place moment. Kind of. Also, I'm realizing that I said earlier, like it was just about a bunch of rich white people. It doesn't really have to do with the whiteness. It's just that personality of the Hamptons. You know what I mean? Like the shaw, like walking around with your collars upturned. I'm not complaining about the black people on the Summer House. Okay.
No,
oh my God. I just heard myself from the past. I was like, Ronnie, what the fuck, dude?
No. But it's funny because I think the Hamptons does have that reputation of like super WASP land, but actually I don't know if it really is that, because the last time I was in the Hamptons was several years ago, and I just remember it being like in the summer at least, because everyone goes to the Hamptons. I just remember walking down the street and you hear a lot of women talking like this, like, oh my God, Shoshana, you want to go into the bookstore right now? Come on, let's look in the bookstore right now. And like you expect everyone to be like, Shoshana, would you like to see the bookstore? But it's not like that at all. I mean, Ramona goes out there. Ramona has a house out there. There are a lot of Ramonas out there. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And there's someone named Shoshana who needs to see a book.
Yeah, all I know about when you're poor, all you know about the Hamptons are story tales, fairy tales of
Yeah.
people like, I go to the Hamptons for the weekend. And you just imagined, sweaters around necks and, outdoor fires on, mansions on the beach. And
But
that's
there's a
all
lot
I
of
really
douchebags
understand.
out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like
Yeah.
nouveau riche, and there's a lot of people who like make it big on Wall Street, and then they go out to the Hamptons. I mean, there's obviously there's the old money. I think it's the Southampton is where all the old money is, or something like that. It's like the more conservative area. But like, there's also the douchebags who like hit it big on Wall Street, and then they like get these rentals, and they're just like awful.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why are we acting like this is the first episode of Summer House we've ever recapped?
And why am I talking with authority about the Hamptons when I've only been there like 4 times in my life?
We're fucking idiots. We've been recapping
Because-
this for 7 years, but I guess I'm just trying to say, like, the roots of this show and where it are now. I wouldn't be watching this show if it was like girly girls dressing up like for tea parties and playing games that they stole from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You know what I mean? I'm not here for that. That's just not my...
I agree. I actually do think we need some more men on the show. I think we need to have that some sort of like more sexual tension going on, because that's when they all go haywire. And the fact that there's like there's 3 men, but the third man is sort of, he's taken, and he's also not going to be engaging in any of the drunken hijinks, and he also looks miserable while he's there right now. It's sort of like you need to mix it up a little bit. Also, why has Bravo given up on gay men on Summer House?
Because it's unfair. I'm glad they gave up on us. You know why? It's not fucking fair to have one gay person on the show. They can't fuck anybody. The whole show's about drinking and fucking. So they keep it's like you give us one gay guy and then wonder why they're miserable on a balcony alone with their hoodie on, like being upset and then falling in love with the straight guys that they're doing drugs with. Okay. Like, you can't just have one of us, but then you can't have 5 of us either, because
then
that's a totally different show.
Yeah. When it comes to, I feel like when it comes to gay guys on TV, there's like a very specific count, because if you have too many gay guys, then it becomes madness. And then if you have too few gay guys, then it's like tokenism. So I'm going to say, I think Bravo should add 2 to 3 gay guys, or two main gay guys, and then a gay friend of who comes like every other weekend.
Right, like a gay person. Okay, they should do. Yeah,
The
I
Hamptons
agree.
is one of the gayest places. Okay, Ina Garten lives there. Just for
Yes,
that
they
alone.
should get a gay guy who has like lots of followers, or whatever. He's very popular in the Hamptons.
Yeah, or a power
and so
gay.
he can, when they have their part, yes, but he can't be too powerful because he still is in a share house. You know what I mean? But for their age bracket, a powerful gay who will bring over tons of gays from their friend group. So maybe if they have 1 or 2 gays, then somebody can always be fucking strangers. That's all we need.
I would like? I would like a gay monster. I would like sort of like a wannabe sweater gay, someone who maybe looks like a young Jonathan Adler, who comes in with like a sweater on, but he's like really obsessed with wanting to be a sweater gay, but he's not of that world, and so therefore he's just like a monster, and he's like a dictator about what they have to do. I feel like that would be amazing on this show.
I would love to have, I think what would really work is a Carl gay, like a douchebag fuckboy gay. That's what we need. And I think it should be kind of like a straight acting gay, like a more butch gay, because everybody, the girls and the boys, fall in love with that type of guy, and they act like they're really nice and charming, but then they're horrible fuckboys because, the boys that they're fucking are not going to take that well, and that would lead to a lot of drama. So I think, guys, you could do it. And it's not just for the gay community. Do it for the Summer House community.
Yeah.
You need help.
Yeah, thank you.
We're here to help.
Because also,
although the casting has been very good, I like all the people they've cast, probably except Chris. I don't hate him, but he's filling that Alex role. He's trying, but it's not really working.
Yeah, he's sort of he's like a like a, you ever have like a let's say you have some sort of bottle. Okay, how about this? You have like a bottle that you're washing out in your sink, and there's soap in there and everything. And if you squeeze the bottle, a bubble forms at the top of the bottle hole. You know, it forms, but then you let go of the bottle, and the bubble sort of sucks right back in. It never pops or blows off. The bubble just sort of like has promise and then recedes. And I feel like that is
And then you're like,
Chris.
oh my God, and that could still poison me. You know what I mean? Like, it seems innocent, but it could still poison me, and it wasn't even entertaining. Fuck that bubble.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And you can even
see
squeeze
that.
the bottle up, like you can do it like rapidly, like, and the bubble opens and closes, but it never pops, and it never really reaches its potential as a bubble.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the casting. I think it's just hard melding the newbies in with the oldies who really want to fight about work. Like, that's literally what they want. They want to fight about work, and then their scenes are about, like, trying to have babies, which I think works on most shows, but not a show about being young and fucking. On this show, it needs to be like, how do I not have a baby?
Yeah. And we also need boy clicks. You know, we have girl clicks. We need boy clicks too. Okay. Because honestly, the guys are a little ancillary right now. Again, Carl, they're at the center of the drama and yet ancillary in terms of presence, because Kyle is with Amanda. Carl's with Lindsay. So you just have Chris. Chris is the only one who has any sort of like, you know, who can really is going to engage in sort of an
has no
interesting way with the
drama.
other girls. And
Yeah, he's no drama. I don't think he's ever been let out of his house. Like, his way of flirting and all of that. I think that we are led to believe that he's going to be a hot fuck boy because he's hot. But then we find out he's literally only worked out because his dad made him, and he's never been out of the house before because no game. There's no game. And then the other stuff, the Kyle and Carl fight, that's ultimately the women fighting. It's ultimately Amanda and Lindsay coming for each other because they hate in a passive aggressive way. You know what I mean? Is how I'm seeing it so far. So anyway, that's our dissertation. It was a 15-minute recap today. We'll try again next
I know.
week.
Thanks everyone for being here. We had a great time. No, we'll dive into it.
Let's get into it.
So Kyle is still he's hot. He has steam coming out of his ears because he's been worked up about Carl complaining at the restaurant, and Danielle's gotten mad at him for complaining about Carl. So Kyle has gone and stormed off, and then he's come back in and everything, and he just feels like he basically feels like if Danielle even knew what was going on Monday through Friday, her brain would explode. Like, she just doesn't even know.
It's like,
what goes on.
Danielle, if you want to say something, let's go for it then, because Carl could walk out right now and the company wouldn't feel a thing. I don't want to do this. She's like, well, I don't want to do it either. He's like, yeah, well, if you know what happens Monday through Friday, come talk to me. And then he storms off. It's like a little steamy mullet storming down the hallway.
Yeah. And so Sierra's like, God, I just wanted a bite of salmon. So Danielle said, well, I told you I didn't want to get involved. Which is why I eavesdropped in on a conversation that didn't involve me, and then got really mad about the thing that was not a conversation that I was part of. I didn't want to be involved.
And then Sierra, who was in one of the most overdramatic fights of last season, is like, I just wanted a bite of salmon, y'all down. Because I like the most dramatic fighters are all when anyone else is fighting. They're like, oh my God, you guys, seriously? We're in public.
Yeah.
And Kyle's actually the worst at that, which goes to prove my point. Whenever anyone else is fighting, Kyle's like, come on, why is everybody fighting right now? Ridiculous. So then Amanda goes to sit with Kyle, and she's like, Kyle, and he's just ordered himself a dirty martini. The guy is fall down drunk, by the way. And he's like, I was just venting, you know, I've seen stuff Danielle hasn't seen. Lindsay hasn't seen. And if ever there was a time for the Apocalypse Now music to be playing, you guys don't understand. You weren't there with us.
Yeah. And so Danielle, I would play it, but the application isn't open.
No, you can't play it. You can't play. Kyle doesn't get that.
Kyle only ever gets it.
Only ever.
But the
gets
application
that,
isn't open. I don't know where it is, and I'm like, I'll spend 15 minutes. So,
yeah, no, I'm just pointing out that he's sounds like they've been through a ward. You don't know what he did to those villagers.
So Danielle's like over at the other table because Kyle's inside and they're outside, and Danielle's like bringing up an addiction issue from over a year ago for why he should be so lucky to work for him. That doesn't work with me. Doesn't work for me. So then back.
Well, I'm sorry, but a year ago isn't that long ago, okay? Like, if I'm getting in trouble for shit that I did a year ago for my addiction, and I'm speaking from a person who's come through a lot of addictions, okay? Yeah, you don't. A year doesn't give you like the card where you're completely free and clear of everything you did from a year ago. You're not. Now that said, Kyle's a fucking asshole for bringing this up in public.
Yeah,
what a monster.
I think that Kyle was bad.
Yeah.
Kyle was really wrong to vent that at a table. Like, I think even if he had just like have been having a quiet conversation with Maya alone, it's still probably not appropriate, but it still would be better than complaining about this while he's drunk. You mentioned this last week. He's drunk while complaining about this on public, on TV. It's so bad.
So it's shitty and it's hypocritical, you know?
Yeah. But he was, it does seem like he was patient with Carl in the sense that, like, you know, Carl definitely had some substance abuse issues that like would have gotten him fired from a normal situation, normal work situation.
All right, but I'm also just going to add that I'm glad that Danielle is sticking up for him in this moment because it changes later. So I'd just like to say she's being a very good friend at this dinner for giving it to Kyle.
Yeah. So Amanda tells Kyle, I just don't want your real feelings to get overshadowed by emotion. And he's like, uh-huh. And he like reaches and sips his martini. Sort of like, this is not going to help things not get overshadowed by emotion.
Commercials. Here comes one right now.
Decades before Anna Delvey began scamming her way into high society, Christian Carl Gerhartsreiter was infiltrating America's most elite circles with little more than a fake name and a lot of charm. Bold, ruthless, and willing to kill, Gerhartsreiter embarked on a caper across the West Coast, successfully evading the FBI for decades. Hi, I'm Sachi Cole, co-host of Wondery's podcast Scamfluencers, where we unpack the lives and schemes of some of the biggest scammers and con artists. In our recent two-part series, 3 Weddings and a Funeral, high society's top social circles become a playground for a fraudster. Follow Scamfluencers wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen ad-free on the Amazon Music or Wondery app.
And she does this like, okay, you need to handle it sober, Kyle. So shake it off, shake it, Kyle. And he does a shimmy. She's like, smile, Kyle. And so he does the little smile. And then they return to the table. And he's like, yeah, I just had to come back for the best seminar.
Yeah. So they all sit down, and then Danielle's like, hey, Gabby, there's been something that's been like, I've been on the cusp of wanting to say to you. So I want to say it. Can you come over here? Go and sit. She goes, okay. So she's like, so we dated the same guy. I mean, he always told me that Gabby was his ex-girlfriend, to the point where like I stalked her on Instagram. I'm like, I feel like the moment someone just mentions any name, I stalk them on Instagram. She's like, wow, it got so bad I even had to stalk her on Instagram. And Gabby says that she's really excited to meet Danielle in person because she already knows who Danielle is. Then she pours some wine in the confessional as if to be like, I'm unbothered, you know, or like I have things to say, but I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to pour wine instead.
So Danielle's like, yeah, I mean, I did date that guy. We were inseparable for months, but then he turned flaky. And then I think we hooked up after that too. And Gabby's like, I know. And let me tell you why. Because like he actively cheated on me with yo. And then they show the picture of Coachella that they've been showing us with the blurred out faces. This guy sat next to a girl with also a blurred out face with the arrow that goes ding. Not Gabby. And then this time they unblurred the face and it's Danielle.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
And Paige goes, oh my God. Paige is like, wow, this is like the most exciting thing that happened to me since Zara had their 40% off sale. Wow.
And Danielle's like, well, I knew about Gabby, but I didn't know there was an overlap. Turns out there was. And Gabby's like, well, I broke up with him. Was it in 2016? No, it was 2017. And she's like, wait, because I went to Coachella with him in 2016. You guys, you're going over 7-year-old tea, and I'm supposed to fucking care. Who didn't fuck boys in 2016? That's pre-pandemic shit. Everything was different, you know? We've all had to go through moments of wiping our asses with our hands. This is pre that, and I'm supposed to care. Get the fuck out of here with this story.
And Gabby says that like when he went to Coachella, she didn't know where he was because he ghosted her. He was like gone and then just showed up again right before her birthday. And Danielle's like, that's funny because after Coachella, he just ghosted me. I'm like, also, I don't understand people who have tolerance for these ghosting types. Like once someone ghosts you, it's bye. Like why? Like I don't know when Gabby dumped this guy, but if she continued to date him after he ghosted her for like a week or 2 weeks, that's like, it's not right.
Yeah, but Gabby only dates models. So we know he's
right.
super hot. And, there's certain things you forgive when someone's hot enough. That's just how it is. That's why I love age.
Yeah.
Because age really evens out the playing field.
Yeah, I started following, by the way, I started following the guy from last week, Jerez, on Instagram, because I'm like, please have a bad personality. So that way I'm not captivated by your hotness. And I'm still pretty captivated by his hotness. However, I'm seeing glimmers of more of the douchebaggy stuff is coming out now on his Instagram, and I'm like, oh, thank God, this is good. I'm really happy about that. I'll give everyone updates, but so far there's a lot of content. There's been content of him like giving a middle finger to the camera and then sort of like nodding at the camera at the same time. I'm like, yeah, classic.
Well, I was talking to a friend the other day because I was in Los Angeles, obviously, so I was catching up with friends, and always the relationship talk comes up with friends. And I said, look, I'm 47. I'm not a spring chicken. And they're like, but that doesn't mean it's too late. I said, no, it's too early. Like, age is the equalizer, all right? I need like till mid to end 50s where the hot guys end up just being chubby bald guys, because they're going to be so confused and discombobulated from having been hot and now not being hot. They're going to need help, and I'll just be there with my flappy anti-underarm skin being like, it's fun, put your arm up when we're driving with the windows down and just watch your arm flap like a flag, babe. That's how to do it.
Yeah.
They need those ex-hot people are going to need me. And that's when I'm falling in love.
Yeah. Just it's a long game,
Yeah, but fucking 2016, fuck off with that. I can guarantee you, if you talk to any gay guy who you didn't know in 2016, but now have become friends with, it's like a 23andMe of who we fucked. It's like, look at the trees of who we've both fucked in our lives. I can't take this as a big deal.
Yeah. So then Gabby says that with that guy, when she finally broke up with him, she had all of his social media passwords and she went nuclear. And basically she posted this message on all of his social medias, including LinkedIn, that said, I'm a liar and a cheater, and I don't deserve the girl who I claim to be my girlfriend for the past 4 years. Gabby Prescott is one of the best people I have ever met, and I have wasted her time and taken advantage of her love and trust. I'm sorry for this, but it is a pattern of behavior. Paige is like, wait, this was on LinkedIn? Gabby's like, yes. She's like, wow. That's
Paige is like, this is the best thing I've ever read in my life. And Gabby says, he is so lucky I'm a bigger person and didn't do anything else. And so they're like, well, I guess we all learned not to fuck with Gabby today. So Danielle hugs Gabby. And Paige goes, what a classic New York City connection. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So then Amanda's like, everyone down there, you want to go to Capri now? So they're going to go to a club called Capri, which I can't tell if that's named after the pants or the room in Buco de Beppo. But either way, sounds fab.
So back home, Kyle goes home and takes his clothes off. And then we see them all coming back home. And Maya is in Paige's room. And she's like, why do I even live here? I don't even know where I live anymore. Paige is like, be gone with you, Maya. So Maya leaves. And Sierra goes, I hate Maya. Paige is like, yeah, me too. We should call her. So they're like, come in here and sleep in the other bed in here. Like, get your computer and your little AirPods and squeeze next to us. You've got 5 seconds. Get in here.
Yeah. And then like, it's basically just Kyle and Chris drunk outside, jumping in pools and stuff. And then Kyle, of course, then winds up having a drunken late night binge of tortilla chips. Because I think what I'm divining from all the footage is that Kyle is actually supposed to be on keto. And so he's just eating these chips. And he's like, nothing more American than a chip being transformed into a spatula for being fat.
Yeah, and this is one of the parts we were talking about where this episode is really struggling. Because this whole coming home thing, they're just showing us so many weird things. And then the arrow person, whoever was hired to be the ding and arrow with a name pointing at somebody, they just start showing people in random parts of the house going like, ding, Amanda, ding, Paige, ding, Maya, ding, Sierra. What are you doing?
I know, it was excessive to
What's
no
with
end.
the dings?
To no end.
Nothing's
it's not like,
happening.
Their spatial relationship towards each other was not consequential. You know, you could just say, you could just point at the house, external shot of the house, establishing shot, house, exterior, night, and then just do a one big arrow, and then have everyone's names. Everyone's in the house. So now it's morning. And again, in case you were hoping that things would get more exciting in the morning, we are now, we hear Amanda saying that she might boil some eggs this morning. So that's...
And then someone else, I think it's Samantha, she's like, yeah, I know how to boil eggs. I learned from TikTok.
and then she says like, yeah, so like my hot boxing trainer is coming out tonight. So we're going to go do that. And he's going to come over. And they're going to be having
I
a
like
tea
a man
party.
with power. Yeah. I really like a powerful man.
Man in position
like,
of authority.
Yeah, it's like the chick from
Winter
Jess
House.
from Winter House. But this one literally just means somebody strong. She's like, yeah, he's ex-NFL. So, clearing my roster is a dream. Because you kiss a lot of frogs before the prince. That's what my mom always said. I mean, the frog tally really is racking up, but still, it's like, come on, Sam, you're a trainer.
I worry about the frog metaphor when people talk about you have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince. Like, I worry about that because I feel like there's almost an implication that you kiss a bunch of, there's like a lot of terrible guys you go through. I get what it means. You go through a bunch of mez before you
It makes
find
you feel of
wonderful.
HPV. Like, it makes you think of HPV.
But it's also like the implication that one day you're going to find a man that you're going to be able to change and transform into a prince. And I feel like that leads to a lot of, people like Brittany marrying Jax on Vanderpump Rules, It's like,
oh, I thought you took it, because I take it as like one of those billboards. It's like 1 in 4 people has HPV,
well, there could be that too.
I think it's your mom just saying, listen, honey, don't worry. Everybody has it. You'll be fine. We've all kissed a lot of frogs or something like that.
No, I mean, I get it. I get what the metaphor is. But if you really think about it, it's basically saying, don't worry, you'll find someone who seems like they'll be terrible, but actually you can make them great. It's a fixer.
Yeah.
It's a
Well, the
fixer
problem was
metaphor.
never that the frog was terrible anyway. It was just a frog.
The frog
was still a fucking prince, even when it was a frog. Okay,
Well,
it was very sweet. It was not fucking other women at Coachella. You know what I mean? Or like
might have
following
been.
around other women at Coachella. No, the
It might
frog
have
was
been
a
the
sweet
frog-
person.
But the whole point was the frog was a frog and couldn't be not a frog until someone came along and released them from their frog state. So, because if they were like a prince amongst frogs, they would be a prince. They would be a prince that looked
In like Frogland. But
frog
frogs don't
prince.
care about princes as much. You know what I mean? Also, I think that frogs basically... I think that was a lucky story for whoever kissed the frog, because I'll bet other girls after that started kissing frogs and they just blew up into Jax, Like, I don't think every frog turned into a good person. I think she just got lucky with the frog that was stalking her.
I think, and by the way, that frog, I still don't even know if I trust that prince, because that frog had to talk such game to get that woman to kiss him. Like she kissed it makes me think that prince probably
Manipulative.
was a fuckboy.
Yeah, manipulative, for
narcissist
sure,
who got people to do things for him, because like when else can a
100%.
frog can get someone to kiss it
100%.
romantically?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, basically that frog would be booked for assault at this point
That
because
frog-
it was coercion.
That frog would be on a Bravo show by now.
That frog would have his own spinoff.
That frog would be a
on
decky
Bravo.
on Below Deck. Let's be honest.
So Carl and Lindsay FaceTime Danielle, and Danielle's like, oh my God, you guys look so great. I can't believe I'm without you. You're in a wedding. What's the wedding like? Is it going to be like your guys' wedding? Tell me everything about the wedding. I only live for you. And Lindsay's like, would you look at this out here? Carl, it's your line. Carl's like, it's like the little Italy of the West Coast out here. Like, seriously.
Yeah, it's like amazing. And Danielle's like, well, I miss you guys. I wish you were here. Yeah, we wish that it was still just the two of us, not FaceTiming you right now. oh, it's such a bummer. And Carl goes, yeah, it feels weird not being there with you. You know, Carl, could you do that like line again with like the way we said we should do it? It feels weird that we're not there with you. You look great, by the way, Danielle.
You're getting closer. It's like the Italy of the West Coast. All right, Carl, let's stop now.
By the way, I love that Danielle is like, I wish you guys were here, and they don't say anything like, oh, we wish you were here. They're just like, aw. We're indifferent about our location and proximity to you.
So Danielle's like, well, sorry to do this on a wedding weekend, but it's weird for me not to tell you guys because last night at dinner, Kyle was talking to Maya about your work situation. And I overheard it, and he was being like intense about you. Like, his past, not showing up to meetings, doing drugs, and you should be so lucky that he kept you on, and now you're asking for a raise? And Carl's like, I don't know what to say. Like, I try and come up with something, but I left my computer at home. So,
yeah, this was not part of the script that Lindsay had written out for me, so I really don't know what to say. And you know what? My involvement in the business is like so important. Like, in my humble opinion, they're like fucked without me. Like, who's gonna be the one who's gonna like go to Cincinnati and take a picture with Loverboy and be like, Loverboy, put it on Instagram? Who's gonna do that?
She's like, yeah, in my opinion, you should not work for this person. And we get it done. So then Danielle has done her shit stirring for the day. And so she goes out and talks to Chris. And he's sitting there with his headphones on. And she's like, hey, bro, you look like me, like when I'm working. Ha ha ha. I work a lot. Ever take the train? What's that like? I love it.
Yeah. And so, and he's like, yeah, it's cool. And she's like, so you were dancing last night? Like, you got rejected by a girl? He's like, yeah. Hey, I hope everyone comes out tonight because I put hairspray in my hair last night, and so I mean I put it in my hair every single night actually. But let's go out tonight. She's like, okay, cool.
She also took a phone video of him getting rejected by a girl. She's like trying to bond. At least Danielle's trying. Yeah, you know, she's trying with the new cast, like to bond and make new friends, but Chris doesn't really seem to understand, and he's certainly not going to appreciate the phone video of him being rejected in a bar from like behind a plant in Capri.
Yeah. So then we go to Gabby FaceTiming with her sister Danielle, and she says that they were born like 21 months apart, and they are like totally like they're like BFFs. She's like, you know, we're totally codependent. Like a year ago when she had to move to New Orleans, it was like the rug was pulled out from under me. It was like one of those disgusting Scorpios coming through and just destroying my life. I mean, she was like my built-in best friend, my built-in plus one. Like, we did appointments together. We go to fashion shows together. We watch TV shows together. We watch debates together. We both we go to Pep Boys together. We both vacuum together. We each hold one side of the handle. We do that together. We do everything together.
I love when she went from, we watch TV together, we watch debates together. It's like, ooh, oh my gosh, yeah. So she's like, yeah, Danielle and I were like talking about blank, and she said he told her they were broken up, and I cannot and will not blame Danielle because she was just as much of a victim of his scheme of lies, and I'm so glad to know her one-on-one because, well, one, he's going to shit his pants, and I thrive in that space. And two, she's an incredible girl. I mean, my ex has incredible taste.
Yeah. So now everyone's in the kitchen, and Paige is announcing that they're going to be doing a tea party outside, and it's going to be dressy, and we're going to eat sandwiches, and then we're going to drink tea. We're going to drink tea, and we're going to drink Loverboy tea, and we're going to spill the tea. And then we're just going to look at people whose names start with T and talk about how terribly they're dressed. It's going to be a great day.
Immediately lost me. We're going to drink Loverboy tea. Ding! Like self-promotion of Loverboy. We're going to spill some tea. Ding! You don't get to say that. And we're going to drink some tea. Okay, you don't get a ding. You can do that.
Yeah.
You could do that. But the rest of it, I was like, no. So Kyle is going to go out and try and make it work with Chris again. He's going to try and make something happen with Chris. And then we learned from Paige that the one thing she learned from her grandpa, if you don't put the cheese right on the bread, you don't get the taste of the cheese.
So no condiments in between cheese and bread. Otherwise, the cheese just disappears into the sandwich. It's a bold statement.
You know, I don't disagree with that necessarily. I really did stop to think about it. And I was like, she's right in a way. I do love a white bread sandwich with just some cheddar in it or Munster with nothing else. Sometimes maybe a little mustard. But then if you just put cheese, but then you put a lot of condiments, there's nothing to absorb the wetness of the condiment. So it kind of squirts out at you.
And it slides.
So,
everything slides. So you kind of need to put the condiments. But maybe you do something wild and put the condiments on the bottom slice, you know?
I don't really know. I will say that Paige's grandpa had a lot of stains on his shirts. That's my guess.
Probably. So now the girls are getting into their tea party clothing, and then the guys head out to the brewery, and by the guys I just mean Kyle and Chris, for a very boring time at the brewery. And so Amanda, they're all there, and Paige says, "Guys, we have a server coming, and I don't know what he looks like. So depending on how he looks, we're going to ask him to take off his shirt." And Sierra's like, "Yeah, I'm going to respectfully objectify if he's super hot," which made me feel bad that when this guy does show up, Daniel, they're like, "Oh, hi." So,
well, yeah, because they didn't hire a stripper. I thought she was going to hire a stripper who also serves sandwiches. She literally hired a catering waiter. You can't do that to catering waiters.
I know. But at least she'll get good service this time. Because if it's a stripper, it's all going to be a disaster.
He gave fucking shitty service, and then he left before everything was even cleaned up. Like, who does that?
That's true.
Like, that's why I'm upset with this season of Summer House. I'm mad at a cater waiter. Okay, that's how I'm spending the rest of my day.
So yeah, they're like abusing their power over Daniel. They're like calling him, screaming for him to come out and everything. And he also was moving those big ass umbrellas over to them. And those umbrellas are probably difficult to move. So that was a lot of work that he did. Just trying to
the waiters union's like, "Oh my God, thank God so much for this show."
Just trying to give credit
so
where
hard.
Waiters union.
Okay, so it's boring. So then Paige is like, "Well, inside my teapot are cards that I've written. And if you choose not to answer, you have to take a shot. Did he own a deli? Yes, he did. Okay, no one has to take a shot. So who at this table would want a threesome? I would with Amanda.
And then it's like, who is most likely to do anal? And Sierra's like, I feel like Sam would do anal. And she's like, I would like literally never let anyone violate me, but I appreciate it. And then it comes out that Paige actually uses butt plugs. And she's like, I did it once, only because I misread. I thought it said butt plugs were in style. It said pashminas. Huge mistake.
I read butt plugs on the label, and I was really low on energy that day, so I thought I would try anything.
Commercials. Here comes one right now.
So then we get a song, "Gotta Get Away, Gotta Get Away." And Kyle and Chris do their wacky bits, which are sad to watch. Kyle's like, "Is this a pull door or a push door?"
And then they get to this brewery, and they're outside, and they like, it's a lot of them playing Connect 4 for the rest of the episode, like oversized lawn sized Connect 4. And like we see Chris goes to bring the set over to wherever they're standing, and then all the chips fall out, and they're like, "Oh man." I was like, wow. Gravity.
So
it's crazy what it does.
Paige is like, "Who would you not let around your son?" And Maya's like, "I vote Sam."
Because she does anal. Don't do anal.
And Sam's like, "Moms love me, ironically, so I don't know." And Maya's like, "Well, I love kids, so like I don't want any of you all dating my son, because like I would give my life to my child, and then like I would not have a life, and like I'm not gonna have somebody like dating my son."
Yeah, because she doesn't want to have kids, and she talked about how like Oliver knows that she doesn't want to have a kid, but like he's willing to look past that, but she doesn't want to diminish their dream, like someone else's dreams for her, you know. So Amanda,
she goes, "Also, I don't want to hold something in my body that long. It's like holding in a fart." I was like,
I understand that. So Amanda says that she wants to have kids, but it's not on the cards right now, and she talks about how she went off of birth control and that she hasn't had a period since November. And she's like really nervous to go to the OB, and Sierra's like, "Oh, you have to go right now." And so basically, and then Paige goes, "What if?" Okay, this is a fun game. What if the doctor comes back and says, hey, Amanda, we regret to inform you, but you can't have kids. Have you thought about that? I'm like, yeah, I think she's thought about that, Paige. I think that's probably why she's scared to get this checked out.
Yeah, Paige is really going there, damn. And Amanda's like, you just grow up and you just like think like you're gonna do it the normal way. Like I grow up, I get married to someone who's cheated on me a lot of times, and then like we're happy suddenly, and then, you know, if we're not as happy, then we decide to have a baby to fix the relationship, you know? And Gabby's like, yeah, we're like trained to think it's easy. It's like being models, you know? Then you learn to grow up that not everybody really has it, and so when ones that you find that do go to Coachella and cheat on you, you kind of overlook it a little bit.
Yeah. So then we go back to Kyle and Chris, and they're playing Connect 4 still. And Kyle's like, remember the time I convinced you to come to the Hamptons and hang out with me? And then they don't even bother making a scene out
I
of it.
commend you for writing Chris and Kyle stuff down, because to me, they don't show up for another 20 minutes. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Every time they cut back to them, I was like, no, you're not going to do anything. And then sure enough, they were like, hey, let me see my beer. Oh, here it is.
Yeah. And then, so then Paige is like, I wonder what Kyle and Chris are talking about. And then they're like, imagine how boring their conversation probably is, right? How boring these two people that seem to have nothing in common and do not even connect. I wonder what they are doing. How are they passing the time?
So then it cuts back to them still talking about babies. And Amanda's like, I didn't think I'd be in this situation. And Danielle's like, well, good news. You are more than bringing a child into this world. Okay. And Paige is like, well, Danielle says, yeah. And with Kyle, like what he said was really fucked up, you guys. Like he's lucky to have a job because I hired him when no one else would. And Sierra's like, yeah, but to be fair, there probably was a time when Carl couldn't get a job, you know?
Yeah, and so Amanda's like, if I told you what it was like every time Carl came into the office at a certain point in time, there were like a lot of things he did that any other company would have fired him for. And it was like constant. And it wasn't coming from like me or Kyle. It was coming from like other people. So there's like a lot going on. And it's like, not like you gossip, Danielle, but like I know Lindsay and Carl are your friends. So like, maybe like let Kyle and Carl work this out instead of like reaching out to them and letting them know about the conversation. And Danielle's like, yeah, that ship has sailed. I already texted Carl.
Yeah, I talked to him already. She's like, oh, you did? And she goes, well, I'm not mad at Danielle. I get it. I just like want Kyle and Carl to be resolved. So then Maya's like, guys, their conversations like have nothing to do with us. And we have better things happening. So like, why are we talking about them?
Yeah.
Thank you, Maya.
Yeah. So now they're gonna get chained. Paige says that let's get chained so we can meet up with the guys. So then we go back over the brewery where Kyle and Chris are still playing Connect 4. And there's like no one else back there. Yeah, but by the way, the whole place is empty. But Oliver shows up with his friend Rob. And now
poor little Rob, he brings a short friend who gets completely shafted the whole night. It's like they're like, fuzz out his face. He's short.
I know. Poor Rob. So the girls are just like drunk and they're like dancing in the house and everything. And Sam says that the hot trainer guy is going to come in about 2 hours. So now they go over to the brewery and they meet up with everyone. And Paige is like, Kyle, I had a tea party. I got everyone drunk and I did it really for you. And like everyone's like really hammered, Kyle. I'll enjoy it.
So then we have a little Sierra and Chris scene, which is super aux. And Sierra's like, so you and Kyle had some alone time, huh? And he goes, yeah, it was like an ideal date. She goes, oh, really? So you made out? And he's like, oh, is that an ideal date to you? What do you like? And she goes, well, I mean, I'm a nurse. He goes, so if I need my head checked or anything? She goes, no, not your girl. The corniest thing a guy could say is, could you take care of me if I need A, B, and C or X, Y, Z? Okay. I'm not interested in taking care of any guys with any ailments. And he goes, well, I'm a little lightheaded right now. I was like, who taught you how to flirt?
I know.
You're terrible. You're fit. They need to just start firing people mid-season and trying new people.
I know. And Sierra's like, well, I mean, if you pass out and have a heart attack and need CPR, then like absolutely. And he's like, oh, mouth-to-mouth CPR or regular? And she's like, oh, wow, you're really flirting with me. I mean, like, I'm someone who fell in love with Austin Kroll, and even you are being too much. Like, it's bad if I'm like turned off by you right now.
Yeah. So then Gabby is playing cornhole, or she's over at the cornhole place with Rob. And Rob goes, "Oh, hey, you want to play this?" And she goes, "You're not my team."
I know. She just, God, poor Rob. His one line. He gets shot down. He wasn't even shooting for anything.
I love that that's Gabby's thing. She's just really mean to guys.
Yeah. So then Amanda's trying to tell Kyle that Danielle, what Danielle is feeling, and Kyle's like, "I don't give a shit." She's like, "Hold on," and Danielle's like, "Well, I just heard my name, and that's not good. I'm not gonna be on the bad end of someone being messy about how they handle stuff." I'm like, well, except you kind of inserted yourself into this one, Danielle.
Yeah, this is when it turns, because now Danielle is making everything about herself, and this is her drama, and now she's going to go on about it all day and night, and it's sad. You know, it's like back to old Danielle. Mm-hmm. Like, all you can do is kiss Lindsay's ass and follow Lindsay around. And now, even without Lindsay there, all you can do is hang on to Lindsay for a storyline. Like, come on. I mean, apparently later this season, there's some drama with Danielle and Lindsay, and they're no longer friends. And I'm so excited to see what that Danielle is, because this one is old. Like, I can't, you know? Yeah. So she's like, Sam's like, it sucks for you because I would be defending my friend like you did. But then Amanda is telling Kyle that Danielle already tattletaled. And so Kyle's like, "Fuck off, dude. I hate that we're talking about this shit."
And Amanda's like, "Well, be over it," but she wants to talk to you about it. So of course she storms off. And Danielle, we didn't talk about the fact that there was a storm off montage earlier, because they were all talking about the fact that Kyle loves to storm off. So then Danielle's whole thing is, she's like, "I don't want to talk to Kyle right now because he's wasted. It's just gonna be a circular conversation." So then Josh arrives. Josh is the trainer, the hot trainer, and he shows up. He's chomping some gum. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And she's like, "Hi, oh my God, it's crazy. I've never seen any of my trainers in anything that's not their clothes. I'm so impressed. You don't wear only Under Armour. Wow, what a big step for you. You wear a brown kind of flaming shirt thing. Wow, so cool.
You look like a latte spilling in slow motion. Congratulations. Love the shirt." And he's like, "Hey, are you trying to feel my abs?" Yeah, by the way, I try to stay away from alcohol, but I'll go to the bar with you. So he goes with her, and then Paige sees Oliver, and she's rubbing his chest. And she's like, "You are the best guy in the house." So hold on, everyone. We're having a moment. I'm caressing his chest because I've wanted to since last summer. Maya, could you give us a minute, please?
Yeah. Maya's like, "Okay." So now Sam's talking to Josh. They're having a conversation. And Sam's like, "It's funny because I normally wear a boxing glove necklace. So it's funny that you came decked out in boxing pendants. Could you imagine if I wore my boxing glove necklace while you were wearing your boxing pendants, and then that it's set against the backdrop of the fact that you're a boxing coach and I'm a boxing student? Do you see what I'm trying to say here?" He's like, "Yeah, I think it's a sign of maybe good things happening." Yeah, I totally feel that way.
It's let's just leave it at that. It's they're trying to have some sexual banter over James Avery trinkets of boxing gloves. It's the weirdest fucking thing. So she's like, "Yeah, well, I'm glad you came because what makes me attracted to guys, and I don't need to know that you're attracted to me right now. So you don't have to say it. You do not have to say it right now. That you're attracted to me. Yeah, that And he goes, "Isn't that clear?" She goes, "Yeah, actually, it's coming through. So look, I'm rarely lost for words because usually I'm a talker." And he goes, "Is that right?" It's oh my God, everyone's just fucking striking out today, man.
Yeah,
Chris struck out with the audience. Now Sam's striking out with this guy. Sierra struck out with Sam. Struck out with Chris. Struck out with Sierra. Sorry, Rob got, I think, blurred out.
I know. Where's Jerez?
No one's doing well.
Where's Jerez? Bring him back. I mean, I don't care if he's giving middle fingers on Instagram. Bring him back.
I feel like Jerez has probably asked for money at this point, because every time he shows up, they turn the whole thing into him. They're wear this mic, please, and stand right there without your shirt while we keep a camera on you for 6 hours straight.
Yeah. So now we have the scene where Maya and Oliver are like, "Hey, let's go sit down in these small chairs." And she's like, "Oh, my hips won't fit in that one." So they sit in really small chairs. And they're like, "Whoa." And then she invites him to stay over at the house tonight.
Yeah, this Oliver and Maya relationship, isn't doing great today either.
It's a little too
wow,
normal
I can't
for TV.
fit in the chair. And then she sits in the chair. He's like, you cool? She goes, yeah, cool. I was like, well, good checking in with them. So then Danielle and Chris are talking. And
somewhere Kwame is watching and saying, wow, the one that got away. Chair banter.
So Danielle and Chris are talking, and she's like, so how was your day with Kyle? And he's like, our conversation revolved around partying more. She goes, yeah, well, I need to have a conversation with him. So
He's like, well, it's Danielle. The weekend. It's the weekend. He wants to party. It's not about trying to fix everything now. It's about having a good time. And she goes, yeah, well, if you want to party, don't talk shit about my friends. And if you want to party and not have the conversation, that's not going to work. And he's like, well, then tell him that. And she goes, which is funny because he just said, don't have a conversation. So she goes, I can't because he's wasted. So now she went from wanting to have the conversation, him saying, you don't do it because it's the weekend, to him saying, well, then you should tell him. And she goes, but I'm not going to. I don't want to.
And then we see that she's been having this full-voiced conversation right across from Kyle.
Kyle's right there.
Kyle is sitting one chair down from the couch, you know? And Kyle's like, what? And she goes, Kyle, I'd love to have a conversation with you, but we're just not in the right space. And he goes, oh, I see your conclusion is that I'm wasted. She goes, yeah, I don't think it would be productive. And he's like, well, wouldn't it be easier if I just came out and said, I would love to hear you talk about anything but me?
She goes, oh, that's rich. He goes, well, every time you got here, it's been like ever since you got here, it's been like word vomit about me. And Danielle's like, word vomit about you because of what you've done. What I've done. Yeah. And now you're trying to flip it on me. That's so cute. Dude, she's literally the worst thing ever. Hey, Danielle, call Carl up. I dare you.
Miss Toxic Fucking, that's you, Toxic Fucking. And so he starts storming out again. And she's like, and this is why I won't have a conversation with him.
Oh, this is where the montage of Kyle storming off is. Because then
yes,
Sierra says, Kyle Cook wins the most dramatic because I've never seen a man storm off like he does. And then we see all the footage of him storming off.
Yeah, it's like 2 years ago, storming off at the reunion. 1 year ago, storming off at a restaurant. Yesterday, storming off 5 seconds ago.
Right now.
So he storms off going, fucking Danielle, I'm fucking done. So now Danielle's with the girls and she's like, I came here wanting to resolve that. And Paige goes, well, I don't think you need to resolve it though. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm at a Nordstrom's and see something that's $400, I resolve it by going to a Nordstrom's rack where it's about $160. You know, sometimes you resolve it by moving away from it.
Danielle's like, well, I'm just not a friend who throws things under rugs. And Paige goes, well, I feel like you throw yourself under the bus for a lot of shit that you don't need to throw yourself under the bus for. And Danielle goes, well, I'm loyal to a fault. I love my people. And Sierra's like,
and that's okay. She starts crying. She's like, and that's okay. And then here comes old Paige with her usual anti-Lindsay. I mean, that finger goes straight up in the air, and here she comes. She's just like waiting for her chance to chomp.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. I'm going to be totally honest with you because like I've known you for like 5 years and I'm so glad we're having our first conversation together. So have I ever felt for once summer that Lindsay has ever rode for you the way you ride for her? No. And I've been around her for like 5 years and it's hard. She's an old lady. I've had to feed her all sorts of mushy peas and help her upstairs. Okay, so I know how she operates. And I know how, Danielle, you ride for your friends. And I think it's like motherfucking admirable and sad, but mainly admirable. But I know for a fact that if last night we were at dinner and Kyle was talking smack about Danielle, that Carl and Lindsay would sit there and not say anything. You are a very good friend to them. Do they give you that?
And Danielle's just crying. She's like, I've known it the whole time.
Paige is right, though. She may have an anti-Lindsay agenda, but she's completely right.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing. Her anti-Lindsay agenda isn't totally unfounded. I can just see she's like, Lindsay's the most annoying fucking person in the world, and I don't want to be friends with her. You know, I get that. It's just that sometimes on Lindsay's side, too, and she just always seems to be sneaking around, waiting to bring down Lindsay. Mm-hmm. I feel like Lindsay brings herself down. You know, like you could be doing something better with your time. But it is funny seeing someone tell Danielle all this stuff because she's like, like deeply, she just knows this is true.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, she does. So now they all go back to the house, and Danielle's like, I will never want to see Kyle for 1,000,000 years. Like, okay.
Good night. And I like that they put Danielle, app developer. Oh, okay. Look, the show's been on for 45 minutes. And they're like, now that she's mad, she's Danielle, the app developer.
Get the full context of her rage. So Josh has to work tomorrow. So Sam is like, well, you can go home tonight if you want, or you can also sleep here. I mean, like, I don't know. I know I'm not wearing my boxing necklace, but you can just sort of imagine the excitement and the chemistry we would have if we both had our jewelry on. She's like, sure,
So
I appreciate that.
He's texting the whole time, not paying attention to anybody, and they're trying to like do it like they always do, try to get a party started, but it's not really happening.
Yeah.
And he's like, hold on, I just need a minute because I'm like texting. And so she gets up on the table and she starts sexy dancing, like trying to get him turned on or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hold on, I just need a second. And then he keeps texting, and she's like, oh my God, fuck this guy.
Yeah. And he's like sitting in like low chairs. The whole rest of the episode, he just keeps on sitting on low chairs. And so she's like up on the island dancing. He's really ignoring her. And then, she basically is like, I'm looking for like a guy who's gonna like jump up on the counter and like dance with me. Not the guy who's gonna watch. Okay. So then most of the house goes upstairs to go to bed, and Sam and Josh get into bed together. And Josh is like, hey, is it cool if I sleep here in this bed? I'm like, sir, you're already in the bedroom and the door's closed and the lights are off.
And she's like, door, lights, you know how to sleep, right?
She goes, you stay there, I stay here. No funny business.
So then Danielle's still being a drama queen, but there's no Lindsay or Carl to go complain to. So she texts Robert, I'm so over this. And he texts back, what? And she says, tell you tomorrow, which is his test to call.
Right.
That's his test to be like, hey, I really care. Tell me about it now. But he doesn't.
Yeah. And then the guys, Chris, Kyle, and Rob blurt out. They're all like dancing and doing jumping jacks and everything. And then like people start to go to bed, and then Chris passes out in a chair, and he's like passed out for like an hour, and the clock goes fast. And then he wakes up and he goes upstairs and he sits in another chair and kind of passes out. And then he like eventually makes his way to his bedroom.
But then he listens at the door, which is really weird. He listens at the door and then he walks in. So then in the morning, it's kind of awkward. Sam's like, he's not for me. I need someone who's like as amazing and table dancey as me. And so Josh goes down to the kitchen where Chris is cooking, and he's like, how much batter you have? And he's like, plenty, I think. And then Sam comes in and goes, you know what, Chris? You really need to turn up the speed with this. You're losing your audience. She's right. She's right, because when you're making pancakes, they sort of take longer than you expect each one. And you have a small amount of time to get those pancakes ready for everyone before everyone just gives up on the whole thing and just eats what you have and moves on. Yeah, but no, he's like, but not everyone's here. She goes, if you make the pancakes, people will come to the kitchen and eat the pancakes, okay? But like you can't make them like one by one. So I'm frustrated. So the Chris serves all the pancakes, and then I think that Kyle has to eat eggs and cheese for his keto. There's like Amanda pulls out some cheese and some hard boiled eggs, and Kyle just looks so sad. He just wants that pancakes. So yeah, he's sad, and he says he needs vitamin D because he's sick of talking about the same shit. And Sam goes, I feel a pool day coming on. So they start doing that, and Gabby and Danielle hang out and talk about how they really like each other despite the guy or whatever. And then Danielle's like, yeah, I mean, I get it, but like, I'm really over Kyle right now. Kyle just passes by, and he's like, come on, bro. Yeah. So people are packing, people are tanning, and Amanda's talking to Sam, and she's like, how was Josh? And she's like, oh, he's like a nice boy, but that's it. Yeah, I'm not in love with him. Because Josh at this point is now just like sitting in the foyer on like a little bench on his phone. And I was like, is he calling an Uber? Is he calling a friend? He's just sitting there trying to escape this house. He's literally sitting right at the front door. It's so funny, like waiting for his parents to come pick him up. I know. People are like leaving to go back to the city. They're like, bye, Josh. Nice to meet you. He's like, oh, it was a pleasure. So then Kyle is talking to Danielle and Gabby, and he's like, all right, Danielle, listen, we need to talk. She's, well, I don't want to. He's like, well, I don't want there to be unnecessary anxiety. She's like, well, you were nasty to me. Okay, fuck it. We're going to have the conversation. It really hurt to hear you talk about Carl that way. And, like, I don't want our relationship to have problems because of them, but, like, I do go hard for them, and maybe too hard for them, and I take it personally, but I don't want us to be talking about it.
Well, I want to say I'm sorry because you kind of walked into a very sensitive subject that, like, honestly, I'm not handling well, and that is like a friend and not a CEO, and I'm not cut out for this. I just texted Carl last night. I texted him 2 words, lover boy. Oh, and then I said, wait, no, take that back. I texted 2 more words. I said, I'm done. I think things are snowballing.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, I could just fire him. And that makes me incredibly sad to think about. And she's like, you know what? You need to have another hard conversation with Carl. He's like, I don't know what to do. Fire him. Carl is under the spell of Lindsay. And when they show the scenes from next week of this conversation happening, Carl looks like he's freaking out internally. You know, I can't wait to see what that's all about.
Yeah. I mean, look. Kyle was a great friend. He kept his friend employed, knowing that Carl was going through a hard time and that Carl really needed this to sort of like give some sort of focus. So like he kept Carl around when Carl probably should have been fired. But now Carl is sober. And so if they're going to do this whole thing of like, you can't hold his past sins against him because he was, you know, there was an issue and he's in recovery. So you can hold the present sins against him, though, which is that he's not doing his job and he's checked out and he's going off to California without alerting people on his team. So yeah, it's time.
He did alert them, though. He told them on Monday and left on Thursday. They're acting like
he told Amanda and Kyle, I thought, but he didn't tell his team. He didn't tell like people. He didn't. I get the sense that he.
Well, I don't
told
know that
people
you're
on
supposed
Summer
to
House.
email the entire network of people that you sell to in the entire United States that you're going to be
No, but
unavailable for
he needed
3
to tell
hours
people
on
he
a
worked
plane.
with. And he apparently people were looking for him. They were trying to. There were meetings that were set that they couldn't get for him.
Again, we are going to start arguing about shit we know nothing about because we've only heard
that's the most
Kyle's side of
fun.
the story. You know,
That's
I have
the most
no
fun
idea,
way.
and it's work drama, and I hate it. But if we're going to give Carl shit for all the accounts he's fucked up, you've also got to give him credit for all the money he's made being famous and going as a celebrity, mixing an appearance fee with selling this alcohol. Because that's not the same as just someone in a regular situation going and selling your booze, you know, in a liquor store in Charlotte or whatever, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, in that case, that's one where I'd say, well, I don't know the structure of like what his role is supposed to be. Because if that was the role that he's supposed to have, then I don't know why he'd get more money for it.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Far, I'm just
We're
team
gonna
Be
find
More
out.
Interesting because this episode was fucking painful.
This episode was painful, but the first episodes I thought were great. I was like, I love it. This season's so good. But this episode was a little rough. But that's
Yeah.
okay. It's over now, and we have next week to look forward to.
we'll all be okay. But you know what? Some summer house, a bad summer house is better than no summer house. Okay,
That's a great
we'll
way of
always
putting
take it. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for being here. We will see you tomorrow with an episode of Below Deck. All right, go get your tickets for Watch What Crappens tour over on watchwhatcrappens.com, as well as streaming tickets for the Crappies, which will be up till this Friday. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Watch What Crappens would like to thank its premium sponsors. Ain't no thing like Allison King.
Ashley Savoni, she don't take no baloney.
She's not just a Sheila, she's a Daniela. Itchels. Dana C. Dana Do. Aaron McNicholas, she don't miss no trickolas.
Hava Nagila Weber.
Jamie, she has no last namey.
Sipped some scotch with Jessica Trotch. Kristen the Piston Anderson. Can't stop fanning over Tina Manning.
She's always supplying, it's Kelly Ryan.
Megan Berg, you can't have a burger without the Berg.
You're never alone with Lacey Monteleone.
Let's give a kisserino to Lisa Lino.
There ain't no problem that Sarah Salvia can't solve ya.
Christy Wowardy Dowardy.
The Bay Area Betches, Betches.
And our super premium sponsors, the incredible edible Matthews sisters.
Somebody get us 10 cc's of Betsy MD.
She's not harsh. She's Jill Hirsch.
We're taking the gold with Brenda Silva. Erica, 500 Days of Summers.
She's the queen bee. It's Sarah Lemke.
Undo your fasteners, it's Aaron Kastner.
We love him madly. It's Kyle Pod Shadley.
Don't get salty with Christine Pepper. Let's go on a bender with Lauren Fender.
My favorite Murdo, Karen McMurdo.
Nobody holds a candle to Jamie Kendall.
Give him hell, Miss Noel.
Can't have a meal without the Emily Sides.
Let's get real with Caitlin O'Neill. Make it Lastner with Aaron Kastner.
We want to hang with Liz Lang.
Shannon, out of a cannon, Anthony. Let's take off with Tamla Plain.
She ain't no shrinking Violet Kuchar. We love you guys.
Hey Prime members, you can listen to Watch What Crappens ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today. Or you can listen ad-free with Wondery Plus in Apple Podcasts. Before you go, tell us about yourself by completing a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.